Almost a decade has passed, and it seems like no other GPU has come close to matching the popularity of the one and only 750 Ti. After all those years, it can still be considered into the top 10 most powerful cards that don't require additional power to run. But that would be pretty much the only thing that's keeping this card around. That, and of course the driver support, which if you look back at historic events, shouldn't last for much longer. On the other hand, the tiny VRAM buffer of only 2 GB and the number of shaders that equals just a fraction of modern-day entry-level GPUs, can this legend keep up with any titles that are realistically way out of its league? Let's find out with some benchmarks. It's not a big surprise that Overwatch 2 will run pretty well on the 750 Ti, justifying its status of a pretty suitable card for lightweight esports titles. Titles like Valorant and CSGO should run equally as well, with the more demanding esports games like Apex Legends probably requiring some reduction in visual quality, and of course resolution. All in all, the cool and quiet 750 Ti will grant you a great time in Overwatch 2. The latest in the Far Cry series doesn't really shine in terms of graphical quality, but the performance is at a respectable level, with some dips in FPS here and there, but overall, not a bad experience. It didn't even require upscaling technologies, which is quite impressive for such a GPU, even at 720p. Dynamite II is one of these titles that can run on a wide range of hardware, and even on the most budget-oriented decade-old GPUs, with the 750 Ti delivering quite a stable experience of 30+ FPS, with just a little bit of help from the FSR feature. Without that, the FPS can drop below playable levels. Despite using the lowest graphics quality, the game looks alright in my opinion. For me, this is actually a playable experience. That's of course if you manage your expectations. If it wasn't for AMD's FSR, Cyberpunk wouldn't really be part of the benchmark list, since without that, there's no chance for the card to run this game at all. But with the most aggressive form of FSR, everything turned all the way down, the game runs at almost a 40 FPS average. Obviously, graphics-wise, it's a mess. So I will let you decide if this is playable or not. Atomic Heart certainly runs and looks much better than Cyberpunk did, with a lot less help from the FSR feature. Could you get to 60 FPS? Probably yes, with lower resolutions or a more aggressive form of FSR. Not that it's that big of a difference. Even like this, the game runs extremely well. The remastered version of The Witcher 3 can be played even at 1080p, but it heavily depends on where you are heading on the map. As you can see, when it gets even just a bit crowded, FPS can drop below 30 quite quickly. For me, this wouldn't really be a big problem. These are not severe drops, and therefore don't really harm the gameplay that much. But of course, reducing the resolution can be used to fix this. One of the biggest surprises in terms of performance was the Resident Evil 4 remake. Yes, it's the lowest settings, and yes, the FSR mode is set to ultra performance. And yes, it's kind of pixelated. But on the other hand, I expected a slideshow and got a pretty decent 50+ FPS on average. Maybe that can change later on in the game, but judging by this, it's an impressive showing from the GTX 750 Ti. After putting this excellently built model of the 750 Ti through its paces, I can tell you that this may be one of the best models of this legendary card that they made. It's pretty cold, quiet, and pretty small, just a perfect all-power card, plug in and start playing some games. On the topic of playing games, well, you saw it for yourself. It's not great, but also not as terrible as you might expect. It's been 9 years after all. It's not really realistic to expect much more from this GPU. Ultimately, it will be a pretty sad day when the driver support for the Maxwell series ends, putting an end to this legend and a lot of excellent GPUs from the 900 series. We must move on, so must GPUs. The 750 Ti has served enough over the years. It seems like it's time for the card to be sent to retirement. Thank you for joining me on this review. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my upcoming tests.